Hello, BookTube. I know I usually spend time on this channel giving you disco tutorials, but I thought today we'd talk about books. I have a Monday Reads video for you. 6 books that I want to parade in front of your thirsty, thirsty eyes. And ordinarily, on a fill-in-the-blank day reads video like this, I would tell you that I have read 3 of them, and I haven't read 3 of them. But in this case, I haven't read any of them. Kind of a bump on a pickle, am I? I haven't read any of them. So we'll go through them together. It'll be a voyage of discovery together. First one is a paperback original. I believe it comes out in November. I should probably know that, right? Yes, it comes out in first week in November, along with every other book in the world. And it seemed kind of fun to me. It's by, let's see here, Jane Allen, and it's I Lost My Girlish Laughter. It's a novel about old-time Hollywood. The classic Hollywood novel of the 1930s. So does that mean that this is a reprint? Is there any chance? Oh my, this is a reprint of a book that came out in 1938. How wonderful. And Jane Allen is a pen name for Sylvia Schulman and Jane Shore. And this edition, which comes out in early November, has an introduction by J.E. Smith. Wow, okay, so this is a reissue. How fun is that? So this is a lost literary gem of the Hollywood of the 1930s. A thinly veiled send-up of actors, producers, writers, and directors in the golden age of the studio system. Madge Lawrence, fresh from New York City, lands a job as the personal secretary of the powerful Hollywood producer Sidney Brand, based on the legendary David O. Selznick. In a series of letters home, Western Union telegrams, office memos, Hollywood gossip, newspaper items, and personal journal entries, we get served up the inside scoop on all the shenanigans, romance, backroom deals, and betrayals that go into making a movie. Okay, well, I did not know. I guess I should have known from the title, because the title has a lilt of humor. And the one thing that contemporary fiction, some volumes of contemporary fiction, is completely lacking in, like a wind-driven tundra, is humor. The one thing that just that zillennials, the late half of the millennial generation, just in general, not only does not do but does not comprehend is humor. They do not do humor at all. So, and even the title here is a little bit on the funny side. So I should have guessed. But yeah, this is a reprint from the 1930s. Good Lord. All right, so well, that's early November. I Lost My Girlish Laughter. It's going to be a $16 paperback, so it won't break the bank if you want to give it a try. Then this next one is nonfiction, and it is by Bern Brunner, and it is Winterlust, Finding Beauty in the Fiercest Season. This is a nonfiction look at the season of winter, the endangered season of winter. The youngest person watching this channel, if I'm doing my math correctly, the youngest person watching this channel is 5. I've actually seen pictures of him. And by the time he is my age, the world will no longer have a winter, and it won't have polar ice caps either. And so these kinds of books are not going to last forever. They already have a kind of a quaint feeling to them, actually. I mean, I did errands today in my shirt sleeves. I had a polo shirt on. And it is the 21st of October. I was perfectly comfortable. It looks to me, I mean, I don't really follow weather forecasts anymore, but I do look at weather data. There are all sorts of meteorological apps that you can download to follow the data and try to figure out, with just from pros and cons, from what actually happens versus what you think is going to happen. You start to hone your own ability to foretell the future, to forecast the events. It doesn't look to me like it's going to be winter here anytime in the outermost reach of the data that we have now. So even now, winter will probably happen overnight, sometime in mid-December, and be incredibly fierce, and then linger into the spring. Anyway, what have we got here? This is I should hold it up so you're not looking at my smallpox scars the whole time. In this book, a farmer painstakingly photographs 5,000 snowflakes, each one dramatically different from the next. Once you go to Berkeley. Sorry, couldn't resist. Indigenous peoples thrive on frozen terrain where famous explorers perish. Icicles reach deep underwater, then explode. Rooms warmed by crackling fires fill with the scents of cinnamon, clove, and pine. Skis carve into powdery slopes, and iceboats traverse glacial lakes. This lovingly illustrated meditation on winter entwines the spectacular with the everyday. And that's twice that the illustrations are mentioned. So let's take a look at these things. Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, this is... You've got paintings there, period paintings. That's an 1867 painting of ptarmigans. There's an old 1869 painting of a moose. We'll try not to... And there's a wolverine in that picture as well. We'll try not to think about moose. We'll try not to think about them. It's got paintings and everything. Oh, this is a lovely thing, definitely. Okay, so let's see. This comes out in November, the first week of November, same as everything else in the world. But unlike I Lost My Girlish Laughter, I can leave it until then. I'm doing a nothing but nonfiction November. And this fits just fine. So then the next one, I'm sure that it's the first week of November release. This is by Brian Brown, and it is Someone is Out to Get Us. A not-so-brief history of Cold War paranoia and madness. Not that small a book. All about, if I remember correctly, this is from the publisher 12. If I remember correctly, the author is saying that there was no actual peril in the Cold War because the Soviet Union was decrepit and collapsing and couldn't bake its own bread. But that where there was no actual peril, paranoia took over. In this book, the author explores the delusions, absurdities, and best-kept secrets of the Cold War, during which the United States fought an enemy of its own making over 40 years and nearly scared itself to death in the process. The nation chose to fear a chimera, a rotting communist empire that couldn't even feed itself, only for it to be revealed that what lay behind the Iron Curtain was a sad Potemkin village. In fact, one of the greatest threats to our national security may have been our closest ally. The most effective spy cell the Soviets ever made was made up of aristocratic Englishmen schooled at Cambridge. Establishing a communist peril but lacking proof, J. Edgar Hoover became our big brother, and Joseph McCarthy went hunting for witches. Richard Nixon stepped into the spotlight as an opportunistic, ruthless Cold Warrior. His criminal cover-up during his dark presidency was exposed by a deep throat in a parking garage. So, it sounds like it'll be mildly irreverent, a mildly irreverent look at the Cold War, and that's fine by me. So this does indeed come out in the first week of November, and I lived through a chunk of the Cold War, so of course it'll be familiar territory to me. This next one familiar to a lot of you. This is an author I consistently like. I just consistently finish. It's fiction, but I'm gonna read it before November. I read his novels and I click right along with them. You can't put them down. There's no slow periods at all in them. And then I think about them later on. They are much better. They're genre stuff, but they're much better than they could be. Ironically enough, they're semi-Cold War, semi-espionage type stuff. The author is Joseph Cannon, the author of The Good German. And this one is The Accomplice. This is his new one, The Accomplice, which comes out... Oh, look at the end. Look at that. This comes out, I'm sure, in the first week of November. Let's see. Yes, it does. It comes out in the first week of November. Okay. And this is, let's see here, 17 years after the fall of the Third Reich, Max Vale has never forgotten the atrocities he saw as a prisoner at Auschwitz, nor the face of Dr. Otto Schramm, the camp doctor who worked with Mengele on appalling experiments and who sent Max's family to the gas chambers. As the war came to a close, Schramm was one of the many high-ranking former Nazi officers who managed to escape Germany for a new life in South America, where leaders like Argentina's Juan Perón gave them safe harbor and new identities. With his life nearing its end, Max asked his nephew Aaron Wiley, an American CIA desk analyst, to complete the task Max never could, to track down Otto in Argentina and capture him and bring him back to Germany to stand trial. Pretty juicy stuff. This comes out in early November, but I'm going to read it tonight. And it's enticing that a large chunk of the action will take place in Nazi Argentina. That's always just the boys from Brazil. That's just so juicy. It's so juicy for drama and also for comedy. One of the first times that the Simpsons cartoon show ever actually made me laugh, just keel over with laughter, is the classic episode where Bart Simpson calls Australia because he wants to find out if it's really true that the toilet bowls twirl in the opposite direction. And he realizes that he can use just unlimited phone calling. No one's around to supervise him, so he makes tons of long distance phone calls, and one of them is to a phone in Argentina. And it's an old guy. He's trying to get to the phone in time. Eine Minuten. And when we see him clearly, it's obviously Hitler. And it's the same thing. The same thing is done for a great tossed off comedic line in Frasier, when Frasier and Niles are confronting the man that Niles thinks is having an affair with his wife, and the whole of it hinges on their Argentinian maid who has real problems with pronouns, and that causes a misunderstanding at just the wrong period. But when the maid is describing her background, she mentions to Frasier that her family flourished in Argentina just after the war. It's kind of anyway. Let's just move on, shall we? This next one is a little odd. It's an odd thing. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of interest it has. I'm assuming this is early November. Oh no, this is late October. This is the very end of October. This is a Penguin book of airline maps, and that's all that it is. It's just vintage airline advertisings, and also let me see if look at that, vintage airline charts and maps of where these planes actually went, and how long it took them, and what routes they took, and where and why. It looks just fascinating. I don't know why. I would never in a million years have thought that I would ever thumb through a book like this, or that such a book would be interesting. But it looks fascinating. So, and it's one of those things. It's not gonna take me any time at all to read through. So, and then the last one, talk about something that's not going to take any time at all to read through, is the children's picture book. This is written by Annika Aldami Denise and illustrated by Lucy Ruth Cummins, and it is called The Love Letter. It is obviously winter themed. The Love Letter. I wonder if I have any kind of description for you here. No, I don't. Well, that's okay. Because it's not going to have that much of a plot, right? It's just a children's picture book. I could end up loving it. If I do, I'll report back. So that is it. That is a Monday Reads. We have a children's picture book, The Love Letter. It takes place in winter. Then we have airline maps, a century of art and design. This is from the great folks at Penguin, just giving you what you would have been facing across the decades if you were traveling from I don't know, trying to fly from Morocco to Boise, Idaho. What would you have to do? And where would you make your connections? And what was the advertising like? Could be utterly fascinating. And then the new Joseph Cannon, a lot of you will be fans of his. This is The Accomplice. Then we have Someone Is Out to Get Us. Sounds like a kind of irreverent history of the Cold War. Then Winterlust, a heavily illustrated book about winter and what it's been like for people to go through in terms of, warming your house, finding food, enjoying yourself, recreation, that sort of thing. And also a lost classic is being reprinted by Vintage Books. Isn't that wonderful? I Lost My Girlish Laughter by Jane Allen, the writing duo known as Jane Allen. Can't wait to dig into it and see what it's going to be like. So that is a Monday Reads, where I have not blazed a trail for you. I haven't read any of these yet, so I'll have to get back to you about what they're like. But I'm going to wrap this up, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.